Now you want to push the message, if you don't vote for one of your puppets, you can't complain because you didn't participate in the process. And of course, if they do vote, doesn't make any difference. But if they vote, you can convince them that they consented to whatever injustice and oppression you want to inflict on them by way of their puppets, because they voted for him. Now they can vote for which oppression, but either way, you can convince them that they consented to it. That is the beauty of the democracy scam. They will all be under your thumb, and they will have the illusion that they agreed to be under your thumb, as if they had a choice. Son, that is how to be a master while posing as a servant. That is how to be a tyrant while looking like a protector. That is how you can and will rule the world. There's one final point. It's very important. We set up this game. We and the ones who came before. We make the rules. There is one message you must hammer into their heads constantly. That if they want change, they have to work within the system. If you get them to buy that, they will be your slaves forever. The end. Amen. So that's the end of my little story. I have a few awkward, uncomfortable questions to ask people. And hopefully by a show of hands you'll signify, and I will too, even though I'm embarrassed about it. How many people here have ever advocated that politicians be given the power to forcibly confiscate the wealth from all your neighbors in order to help the poor? Let's see those hands. If you ever voted Democrat, I just said you. How many of you ever advocated, either today, this year, 20 years ago, whatever, that politicians be given the power to forcibly confiscate money from all your neighbors and everyone you know to build a giant military to protect them? I did. I bet just about all you did. How many of you ever advocated that politicians be given money and power to forcibly take money from all your neighbors in order to protect you from people who threaten to forcibly take money from them? I did. What it boils down to is this, and I don't know anyone, myself included, who can deny this. How many of you have ever advocated that another human being be given the right to initiate violence against you and all your neighbors to help society? There's a reason we're all oppressed. It's not Washington. Yes, there are lots of slimy, nasty people there, and state governments and governments all over the place. The reason is we fell for the tricks. Yeah. We went along with what the tyrants wanted us to do. They said, I bet if we make them scared of terrorists, they'll agree that we should come and steal all their money, go through their luggage at the airport, monitor everything they do, have all sorts of power to arrest people because they need protection. And we said, yeah! Bah. They said, there are hungry people and starving people and these poor people. Can we steal your money? Yeah! Why didn't we just give the poor people our money? We fell for the tyrant tricks over and over again. We didn't resist. We didn't fight. We weren't kicking and screaming. We were voting for them. We did it. And all the peasants out there did it. We agreed. When the tyrants came along and said, do you want to be our slaves? We'll take real good care of you. We said, yeah. I'm done saying yeah. I don't want to be a slave no matter how good a protection racket they have. I will never again advocate that violence be initiated against anyone for the common good. or saving society, or helping the poor, or protecting from terrorists or anybody else. And I hope that's true of some of you. What that actually means is don't ever vote again. Anybody has questions or wants to call me interesting names or throw things at me?
Hi. Is there somewhere that you feel in the world outside of America that is close to having it right?
No. Well, let me clarify that. There is no country that has an established system of not being enslaved, other than Antarctica in the middle of the ocean, neither of which really works well for me as a place to live. But inside lots of basically livestock farms, and I'm sort of borrowing that term from Stefan Molyneux, who does a great job of pointing out how the world is chopped up into farms of people, and they call them countries. And you have this group that has that livestock and gets as much as they can out of it. There is no livestock farm that free-range humans that basically says you can all the way be free. But inside a lot of them, there are places that the tyrants are so inefficient they can't on a practical level get around to oppressing everyone. Actually, New Hampshire, a bunch of New Hampshire is sort of like that. Wilderness New Hampshire, people do what they want, and there aren't enough politician thugs to harass them all. And some of them just do it right in their face and say, this law is really dumb, we're disobeying it. There was one thing about you're not allowed to have a puppet show without a license. So they set up a puppet show in front of the police office, police stations, which is hilarious. But there's a lot of places where you can hide and get away with it, but there's nowhere I know of where where the tyrants say, yeah, you're allowed to be free. Because why would they? It's like a farmer saying, okay, cows, you can go.
How about at the inception of our country? Do you think that the founding fathers kind of had it right?
I think there was actually a pretty wide range of what the founding fathers believed. I think a lot of them were opportunistic politicians. I like Jefferson more than most because I think he actually almost all the way believed in self-ownership. The Declaration of Independence gets so close to describing no rulers at all, but then it went along and said, well, we're going to have a government that just does this, and then it's going to have the power to tax. Well, forget it. It's not a protector anymore. It's a thief. So some of them, I think, were really close. Basically, the ones that were closest, Patrick Henry and Thomas Paine, were accused of being anarchists, which is fun. So anybody who wants to can accuse me of that because I am one.
You're an anarchist!
So I think they got a whole lot closer than American culture is today. But I think a lot of them were still basically rich politicians who saw, well, King George is out of the picture, maybe we can get a little bit of... So, lots of good, some bad in the beginning of the country.
I feel your frustration. That's part of why I'm running. I don't trust anything. But why do you think that not voting will make a difference?
Because when someone votes, what they're saying is, I lost my puppets. I took off my puppets. What they're saying is, we agree that we're going to choose which boot will be on our throat. I don't believe any boot is allowed to be on my throat or has the right to be on my throat. Even if they say, we're going to have a fuzzy slipper on your throat and only have like a half a pound of weight. That's not legitimate either.
So you think that if a lot of people don't vote, that will what?
By itself, it won't do anything. The point is, it's not the answer, it's stop doing something worse than nothing. I absolutely believe voting is far worse than doing nothing because it plays along into the game of we're in power because, look, we get to choose the boot that's on our throat. And I think the first step is, no, we don't want a boot. We're not going into the booth and saying which boot we want on our throat, even the light fuzzy boot. We're going to start by saying, you don't have our consent to do anything to us. Now, how do we undermine your system and put you out of business? So it certainly isn't the answer. By itself, it doesn't solve anything to not vote. But it begins people in the direction of thinking, we can do something more than choosing a new slave master every few